Good evening. Thank you for joining us for our regular council meeting. It's Tuesday, November 26th at 7 PM. Madam Clerk, if you'll call the roll.
Charlie Davidson, George Glover, Ben Sosetta,
Here.
Charles Schwenke, Terry Osborne,
Here.
Troy Hill,
Here.
Brandy Bailey,
Here.
Jim Schrader.
Here.
Mr. Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Councilman Davidson will be late from a work assignment, and Councilman Schwenke notified me he would not be here tonight due to a family conflict. If you'll please rise, Councilman Saucedo will lead us in our invocation, and I will lead the pledge.
Well, let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this evening that you've given us to come together here tonight. And as we assemble as the council and as citizens come tonight, we'd ask that your blessing be upon the time, that you give wisdom to each one of us to act and to vote in a way that would be best for our citizens and also bring honor to you. As we enter this week of Thanksgiving here, time that we celebrate all that you've done for us and how you provided, I want to say thank you just again for your blessings. Thank you for the safety that you've given our staff over this year and the protection our police officers owe as they've responded to different calls and such. We thank you for your protection on them and ask that you continue to protect and guide each one of them as well as each of the staff and each one of our citizens here in our community. And for those that will spend their first Thanksgiving without a loved one, we'd ask that you'd give them just a special blessing of peace and grace during this time, as it can often be lonely without that person filling that table spot. And so we'd ask that you would just give them help this week. Thank you again for all that you've done for us. Bless tonight in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. May be seated. Okay, first approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion? Jim
I move that we approve the agenda.
and Terry.
Second.
Motion by Jim, second by Terry. Seeing no further discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Motion passes 6-0. I don't have any awards or presentations for tonight. I have one person signed up for public forum, Mr. Brandon Pickler. If you want to come forward. Yes, sir. Good evening. Thank you for being here tonight. You don't need to state your address since you put it on here. You'll have 5 minutes to speak on your topic.
Okay, thank you. My name is Brandon Pickler. I live in the neighborhood. I've been here for 12 years. I don't have any plans on moving or going anywhere else. This is where I want to be, so I moved here on purpose. Having said that, where I live over in the High Ridge neighborhood, it's very difficult for my kids and me to get over to the park due to the fact that hydraulic is right there, and it's not very conducive for us to get over there. So one of the questions that I had was maybe if the city council would consider, and the police chief talked about it at our HOA meeting, about maybe considering low-speed vehicles to be allowed inside the city of Park City, meaning golf carts, side-by-sides, or something to that effect. I've done some research on some topics, more than happy to share with the board about what we actually have and what we have going on, and what we can do, we can't do. There's lots of communities around Wichita, along with Missouri, that have already adopted these items and put them into place. And it allows the city to actually also make some revenue because of what they can charge to register those vehicles and make them usable inside the city limits. Now, obviously, restrictions would have to be in place. A lot of those restrictions would come with not being able to drive it over a certain speed. 20 miles an hour usually seems to be the max that everyone has been picking that I've been able to find. Additionally, they're not allowed to cross any major highways. They're not allowed to go down any major thoroughfares. So those are some of the things I was talking about and thinking about, especially with you guys opening up a new pool eventually, because my kids are not allowed to cross that street. Because if you guys haven't ever been by there, I encourage you to come by on a Saturday. I'd love to watch you walk across there with a 4-year-old and let me know how that goes. Because right now I can't get my kids over to the park unless I drive them in my vehicle.
Very good.
I'm open for any questions you might have as well.
Also have any questions?
I have any questions? Good topic, so I appreciate you bringing it up.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I don't have sorry, I don't have any questions for the gentleman, but I do actually for Chief here related to that there. Sorry to put you on the spot on this one too here, Chief, but my thoughts would be I would lean on your professional recommendation on what would be best there. Obviously, I think it's a great idea if we can do that in a way that's safe for not just those in those cases, but obviously sometimes lower speed vehicles, depending on how long they're on a street, can sometimes cause safety issues as well. But I mean, I think it's a great opportunity. So I would lean towards your recommendation and your time.
Well, it's a somewhat complex topic, and I wouldn't exactly be comfortable, giving a thumbs up, thumbs down in this meeting. But what I could do, and would be glad to do if the council would like, I could come back later with some more information and do a separate presentation on that subject, give you a little bit more of a full-orbed view of what's involved.
Thank you. I would appreciate something like
Yeah,
that, and
me
I don't
too.
know about anyone else. And then also, Sean, with our connectivity plan, is that something that's also being kind of looked at as far as the walkability portion of that side of it? Okay, so that's good. So there's another option or conversation. I actually just walked across that place today. Wasn't with the 4-year-olds, with 2 dogs. So even at that, it's a little bit. I get that. So anything, whether it's small or slow vehicles or walkability connectivity changes, I think that's great. So
Thank you. Chief, I don't want to rush it because I want to make sure you're able to have enough time to do it, but is this something we could maybe see in January or February, or how far out? How long?
Sure, I could bring it back in January if you'd like.
Let's kind of tentatively plan on the second meeting in January.
That would be
And
fine.
if you need additional information to gather information, we're definitely open to that. But that way, the gentleman that's here tonight knows kind of when we'll be discussing it again. And if you need a copy of his information, it'll be on this document with the city clerk.
Sure.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you for coming in. Okay, staff reports, city administrator.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and Council. Just some updates going around the city. Progress is being made on the design and the engineering of the new senior center. Sheldon Architecture will be on hand during our December 17th meeting with various renderings and options as far as elevation and exterior finishes. Once those are approved and finalized, which would come back before council in January for final approval, they'll complete the remaining design with the intention of going out to bid in February, and then look towards the March timeframe to start construction on the actual senior center. Next is the water meter replacement program. Good progress is being made on the remaining installs, as well as the follow-up required by the city staff. Some residents have recently signed up and are logging into the new 360 customer portal, but it is of note that some are having difficulty in either creating those accounts, and that's most likely because their specific meter may not have been swapped out yet. So if people are seeing that they want to get on the 360 portal and they're trying to do that, but their meter hasn't actually swapped out, we still have somewhere in the neighborhood of about 435 meters that are still around the city needing to be swapped out. So if people do have questions or concerns about the 360 customer portal, they can please feel free to contact City Hall here, and Ms. Marlowe would be happy to help them through that process. So next is the hydraulic water line project. Not much has happened since the last council meeting. They have installed the new line, but again, there have been some challenges with making the final connection. And now that is scheduled to take place on December 7th, and afterwards, then they'll concentrate on the sidewalk installation with that project. As far as the 2024 street rehab project, the 2-inch mill and overlay on Broadway, as well as the Old Lawrence Road improvements, have all been completed. Permanent striping is mostly complete and includes bicycle lanes from the southern city limits all the way up to the 61st Street roundabout. No start date has been determined as of yet to start phase 2 of the street rehab project. And then finally on Park Center, milestone 1 has been completed, which is Beaumont Street and Hebert Street. Actually, they conducted a walkthrough of that progress earlier today. Next week, Evergy and Kansas Gas are planning on installing electrical and gas lines with the first building permits to be issued and hopefully construction to start on some housing units by the end of the year. And then finally, as far as upcoming events, the Christmas tree lighting ceremony will be on December 7th, starting with pictures of Santa over at the Park City Library. That starts at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. The fifth graders from Chisholm Trail Elementary will be singing here at City Hall starting at 5:30, followed by music from Intrepid Brass, I should say. Then at 6:15, they'll announce the winners of the Gingerbread House competition. And finally, at 6:45, everybody will funnel outside and will light up both City Hall as well as the Christmas tree out front. There will be activities for the kids to do over at the library. Refreshments will be served here at City Hall. And of course, naturally, everybody is encouraged to come on out and enjoy the celebration. So that's all I have, sir.
Very good. Thank you. Terry?
So Sean, so the water shut-off that took place on Saturday, the length of time, and so nothing came out of that then? I had some pretty panicked neighbors on Saturday. They knew about it coming forward, but it's like, we got family get-togethers going on, so on and so forth.
We did get a lot of feedback on this one. So it's actually the third weekend we've done some type of shutdown. And so a lot of people were already familiar with the process and what that looked like. We did accomplish something in the sense that we know we can't get it isolated just yet. And so we think we might be having feedback from a line. We stopped pretty quickly into the day just so that we didn't exacerbate that problem, knowing that some people had celebrations going on, different events with the family. And so we did have a stop time of 10 o'clock where we decided if we weren't going to get it at that point, we were going to get everything turned back on and continue troubleshooting so that hopefully on the 7th, everything goes smoothly.
Okay.
On a good day, it should take 4 hours or less. So at the point that we were a couple of hours in and had not started on the connection, we decided to go ahead and
Yeah.
get everybody turned back on.
Okay. Yeah, part of the panic was the projected 8-hour window that was handed out, so.
Yeah, and we did get quite a few phone calls, and we advised citizens that we didn't anticipate that it would be more than the 4 hours, but
Okay.
that, yes, the contractor had put 8 on their sheet, and I think that did create some panic, some unnecessary panic.
All right, we'll look forward to the 7th again.
Thanks.
Thank you, Gina. Okay, next, consent agenda. Do you have a motion? Jim?
I'd move that we approve the consent agenda.
Troy?
Second.
Ben, did you have a question?
No, but I will abstain based on not being at the November 12th meeting.
Thank you. Motion by Jim, seconded by Troy. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstain?
Aye.
Motion passes 501. With Ben abstaining. Thank you. Moving to new business. Discuss and consider creation of a community improvement district, a CID, and authorize the redevelopment and improvement project related to Champtown. Dom?
Good evening, Dominic Eck with Gilmore and Bell. Tonight, we have a resolution to call for a public hearing on the creation of a community improvement district for Champtown. Stop me if you've heard this before, because we've done this once before, but then we hit the pause button. As you know, it's a large, complex project. So we kind of hit pause once we called for resolution last time. We never called for a hearing. We never went through and actually held the hearing or created the district or anything of that nature. We think we're ready to go now. Got some more pieces of the project lined out. And so tonight's action would be to call for a public hearing. That public hearing would be held on December 17th in conjunction with your regularly scheduled meeting. At that point, we would hold a public hearing, hear from the development team on their proposal and their concept for the CID district, which would include still an imposition of a 2% CID sales tax. that would be utilized to pay for various projects within that district. So again, tonight's action would be to call for that public hearing. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Dom. Is there any questions? Ben?
So just, I'm looking here on the map piece of it. It's a little hard to put together. It looks like the light areas are the ones that are staying out of the CID. Is that correct? Is that Atwoods that's in that? Or, and then there's another lot at the very bottom, but I don't, is that? RB, okay, perfect. I didn't remember which lot they were in. And would this also include the baseball fields?
In the overall CID district?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay, perfect. I can't tell where that boundary lies on that west side, so. I'm in favor. I was just trying to make sure I understood that map. So with that, I'd go ahead and make a motion to approve Resolution 1233-2024, resolution of the City of Park City, Kansas, stating that the city is considering the establishment of a community improvement district with an eligible area of the city and providing for notice of a public hearing to consider such establishment under the authority of the act.
Thank you, Ben. Troy?
A second.
Motion and a second. I just have a question. I'm trying to catch up on some of this stuff from the last few weeks, but properties that are outside of is, you said Atwoods, Arby's. It looks like. Is it
Kansas Tire,
Okay.
McDonald's Hotel to the north.
Wash
Yes, sir.
right behind there. Okay. Is there a chance they could ever come back in?
Sure, so city policy is that you have 100% signed petition. So these property owners have not signed the petition to be joined into the CID district. If they were to request to join the district, we could have the proceedings to do that at a later date, yes.
Okay. Very good. Any further discussion or comments from council? Okay. Motion by Ben, seconded by Troy. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 6-0. On to item 2, under new business. Discuss and consider economic incentive for MHCT LLC. Don?
Thank you. So the second item for tonight is an IRB resolution of intent for the construction of the ball fields that are going to be a part of the Champtown development. MHCT LLC is the entity that is expected to ultimately own the property that the ball fields, on which the ball fields will be located. This IRB resolution of intent tonight would allow for the sales tax exemption certificate to be obtained and let them utilize that sales tax exemption certificate as they go forward to construct the project. We do anticipate that they may also come back and request property tax abatement at a later date, but that is not part of tonight's action. As you know, that requires cost-benefit analysis, public hearing, things of that nature, which we are not doing tonight. So the purpose tonight is, their request is for the resolution of intent to be able to obtain that sales tax exemption. We do have a representative from the development team here if there are any specific questions.
So this just gives themselves tax exemption for the project and anything they purchase for the project?
To construct the ball field facilities, correct.
Great, thank you. And doing these, I know we've done them many years, and I don't know if I've asked this question before. When we pull these up, does it give us what that amount is projected to be?
Yeah, so the resolution in here, we have a principal, so you're asking the principal amount of the bonds or the amount of savings?
What's the benefit to them? What's the sales tax benefit that they're saving?
So that's that's a good question. It varies a lot on each project, right? So sometimes if we look at the cost benefit analysis, when we have the property tax abatement, that amount will be listed. We don't have a cost benefit analysis yet prepared for this project, and so we don't have that number off the top of our head. But we could look into that if that's something that'd be helpful.
That's okay if you don't have it handy, I just was curious. Thank you. Ben?
Yeah, there's a couple things I know I'm curious on. Generally speaking, when we usually have these, we have some sort of a little bit more detailed information as to who, you said one member of the development team is here. I'd be interested in knowing who the development team is from our side, because one of the things that we get asked a lot is, do you know who you gave tax incentives to or tax breaks to, or whatever the case might be? And I think it's always good when that's, and usually, again, with the, I think when you go into the cost benefit analysis, that application's a little bit more thorough on some of that, but I didn't see, I'm not familiar with or MHCT, which obviously LLCs are not difficult in terms of forming and going through. So I would be interested in knowing that, because I think it's important to know who we're giving tax incentives to within our community. The second thing I think that kind of strikes me within this is I'm all in on Champtown. I think it's a phenomenal development idea, and there's a lot in there. What I get a little bit apprehensive of is the number of times we're coming back and asking for more incentives along this development, because someone is bearing the piece of that. Now, I understand with anytime you're doing especially projects like these, if you don't have them, well, you're not gaining the future tax revenue that will be generated off of these. I get that. But in the meantime, someone's holding the purse for a little while during that time. And again, I'm not opposed to IRBs. I'm not opposed to CIDs or anything. They have a great place. I just don't want to, I don't want to, because I think you mentioned that they could be coming back possibly. And I don't know if you know if that's a statement of saying, I believe they're going to at some point, or just that it's a possibility. But it just seems like we're getting a lot of these, and that just makes me a little bit apprehensive that the more we buy in, the further down the road we get, the more obligated we're going to have to be to get the project to completion.
Sure. Understood. And I'll address your second point here. So on some of these incentives, right, that's the nature of the beast, that each one has their own process, the statutory requirements you have to go through. It's going to come up again and again and again, and that's just kind of part of it when you have a multi-phase development. So, there will be other developments out there, and I would imagine that there will be more IRB requests. And so if that happens, you're gonna see these over and over, even though it's part of one overarching development. But understand the point for sure. There will be a development agreement that would be entered into with the CID process and some of these other processes. But yeah, it's going to be a little bit of a frequent flyer here on your agenda probably as everything starts to ramp up. As to your question on ownership, I don't know. Andrew, if you'd like to address that, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. I'm Andrew Kovar with Triplett Wolf and Garrison, counsel for the developer. MHCT LLC is a wholly owned LLC of Champtown Partners.
Okay.
It's just organized to ultimately own that baseball land and the facilities and the fields that are there. And so it's the same Lang organization that you've been dealing with and are familiar with, and no difference there. To your other point, first, I just, on behalf of the developers, want to express their gratitude for your support of this project so far. As Dominic mentioned, it is complicated. And as you can tell, there are a lot of moving parts to it. With respect to this particular issue, you're right. Normally, we would come with a sort of full presentation about this specific incentive, the sales tax incentive, along with a request for property tax abatement. That, of course, those all are related to IRBs. The issue that came up just recently is they're going to be breaking ground next week, and things came up really quickly in getting it all together. Obviously, there's the sales tax exemption piece is you got to have it in advance, and so agree. Would have preferred to be here with a full package of here's the whole thing, but given the time constraint that came up kind of at the last minute, we are making that request for the sales tax piece now, when we probably will come back with a full request that includes the property tax abatement for consideration. Those numbers will absolutely be included in that for your information.
Well, I appreciate the information as to that, just so it
Yeah.
just helps able to answer questions that the public has, because obviously there's a lot of interest in what's happening at Champtown and even in our town center, park center area. And with that, we want to make sure it's successful, but we also want to make sure that citizens understand, like this, there's the cost benefit for citizens beyond what the future results will be, which obviously I fully believe what Champtown's going to develop is going to be a huge return on investment for our community across the board. But I think it's just good to answer this question, so I appreciate that.
Absolutely, and I will remind the council, of course, that the baseball facility is one of the keystone projects of this entire development, is part of the reason why there's going to be such a large draw of visitors to the area. It's going to generate a lot of retail activity. Itself may not be a huge revenue generator, which is why the IRB and some of those incentives will go a long way towards making it viable. So if you have any other questions, I'd be happy to answer them to the extent of my knowledge, but otherwise, thank you very much for your consideration tonight.
Thank you. The only other question I have is
Yeah.
actually for Dominic, sorry, and I won't
Oh, for Dominic.
Mr. Smith this anymore. When we're doing the IRBs or some of these different incentives, how does that do as far as our bond rating, credit rating and such like that? Does that, as these projects continue on?
Yeah, good question. So an IRB is not a debt obligation of the city. The city is what's referred to as a conduit issuer. And so their issue, but the payment obligation rests with the tenant company, the beneficiary, if you will. It doesn't go against the city's debt limit calculation and doesn't get then included into the rating process because it's truly not a financial obligation of the city. They're used in order to access some of these economic development incentives, primarily the two state incentives of sales tax exemption and property tax abatement.
Thank you. I'm done. I promise.
Thank you. Okay, I will open the public hearing at 7:27.
So with sales tax, you're more than welcome to hold a public hearing. It is not statutorily required with the sales tax piece. That's the property tax component that requires the public hearing. But always good to take public comment.
Thank you. Since we opened it, we might as well finish it. So if there's anybody in the audience that would like to come forward and speak on this matter, you're welcome to do that now. This is where Jeopardy music plays. Okay. I'll ask again if there's anybody present that would like to come forward and speak on this matter. Seeing no one, I'll close the hearing at 7:28. Okay, and do I have a motion? Ben?
Yeah, I'd go ahead and make a motion to approve Resolution 1234-2024, a resolution of the governing body of the City of Park City, Kansas, determining the advisability of issuing taxable industrial revenue bonds for the purpose of financing the acquisition, construction, furnishing, and equipping of a commercial facility, the project, to be located in the city, and authorizing execution of related documents.
Thank you, Ben. Randy?
Second.
Any further discussion on this? Seeing none, I will call the vote. Motion by Ben, seconded by Brandy. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Move to item 3, discuss and consider approving a contract with Professional Engineering Consultants, or PEC, for the engineering and design of the intersection at 85th and Broadway. Sean?
Yes, sir. As you may recall, back in May, the WAMPO Project Selection Committee, PSC, recommended and approved the 85th Street and Broadway Roundabout project for federal suballocation funding award in the federal fiscal year of 2027, with a recommended 68.7% federal funding instead of the customary 80%. In August, WAMPO informed the city that if the plans or design had been completed as of date, there was unallocated year-end dollars that could have possibly been used to complete the project earlier than fiscal year 27. But the opportunity was missed as the plans and designs are not currently complete. Attached is a contract with PEC for the engineering and design of the intersection to ensure that if future year-end dollars become available, the city would be in a position possibly to take advantage of that. The cost of Phase 1 engineering and design services would be on a lump sum basis in the amount of $147,400. The cost of what would be Phase 2 construction services would be on a standard hourly basis at the rate established by the attached rate schedule plus reimbursable expenses not to exceed $17,500. It is unbudgeted to be paid out of capital project funds, and staff recommends approval.
Thank you, Sean. Any discussion from council on this or a motion? Jim?
I don't have any discussion, would like to see it keep moving forward, so I would move to approve and authorize the mayor to execute a contract with professional engineering consultants for the engineering, design, and construction of a roundabout intersection at 85th and Broadway in the amount not to exceed $164,900 to be paid for out of the capital projects fund.
Thank you, Jim. Terry?
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion on this item? Seeing none, I will call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 6-0. On to item 4, discuss and consider approval of the site plan for the Park City Senior Center. Sean?
Yes, sir. The City of Park City and its agent Kirk Miller are requesting approval of a site plan for the new Park City Senior Center development. The subject property is approximately 1.4 acres in size and is zoned is DD Downtown District. The site plan review is a requirement of the new DD district created last year, and all projects are to be recommended by the Planning Commission and approved by the City Council. There are no identifiable costs to the city by approving the site plan, and there's a copy of it up on the TV screen. It was approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission on November 18th with a recommended approval 5-0.
Thank you. Do I have any discussion by council or a motion? Terry?
I just one question that popped in my mind, you know, current senior center, although I've never used it, does have a pickleball court, but I don't see anything in the site plan that represents that.
In the lower left-hand corner,
Well, you know,
there's a pickleball
I got
court.
old eyes here, so, you know, I'm trying to pick
Yes,
it
sir,
up.
there's one there.
And it just says P-ball, so that,
Pretty fuzzy on here, so, okay.
I think
Sorry.
Anybody that wears readers can go to the senior center.
You do qualify for it, sir,
Yes, I do. Thank you.
as do we all.
My bad.
Well, not all of us.
yeah.
Hey.
You don't know what you're missing.
Okay, Ben?
Yeah, I have one question on this. I don't see. One of the issues I know that was brought up, I want to say was brought up when we had the conversation a month or two ago, was along that south side, any sort of fencing or screening that would go into the neighborhood to the south. Was that addressed in any of this, or do we feel like?
Not in the site plan, it's not addressed, but we have already kind of, as we are going forward, we're having weekly progress meetings, both with Sheldon Architecture as well as McCown Gordon, who is our CMAR. We pretty much, I think, resigned ourselves to the fact that we're just going to have to probably put up a new privacy fence along the entire back, just because of the fact that there are so many dissimilar fences back there. There are some trees that people have gotten used to being somewhat in their backyard, even though it's across the property line. We're going to need every bit of this property because on the very south side of the property, there is a drive-through. That drive-through is allowed for Meals on Wheels and pickup and catering and everything that can go to support either a community center or a senior center. And so because of that, it's a very tight one. So we've kind of resigned ourselves to the fact to include at least a single privacy fence across the back of it.
Okay, perfect. I just knew that had come up
Yes, sir.
multiple times when that was
Yes, sir.
that part. I think it looks good.
Very good.
So I'd make a motion to approve the site plan as presented and per staff comments.
Thank you, Jim.
I'm going to second that.
Okay, see no further discussion. Motion by Ben, seconded by Jim. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Item 5, discuss and consider approval of the site plan for the Park East Senior Apartments.
Yes, sir. Harris Schmader LLC, the owners of the subject property, and its agent Kirk Miller are requesting approval of a site plan for the expansion of Park East Senior Apartment Development. The subject property is approximately .23 acres in size and was recently zoned to the DD Downtown District zoning. The site plan review is a requirement of the district, and all projects are to be recommended by the Planning Commission and approved by the City Council. Again, as on the last one, there is no identifiable cost in the city approving the site plan, and the Planning Commission recommended approval of the site 5-0 back on November 18th. This is the old City Hall.
Thank you, Sean. Do I have a motion? Brandy?
I move to approve the site plan as presented and per staff comments.
Thank you, Brandy. Terry?
Second.
Any further discussion on this item? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Item 6, discuss and consider approval of the Briarbrook Second Edition, a one-step final plat for property located south of 93rd Street North and east of Broadway. Sean?
Murdoch Properties LLC, the owner, and again, its agent Kirk Miller, are requesting approval of final plat entitled Briarbrook Second Edition to permit the development of a single-family subdivision. The subject property is approximately 74 acres in size and is currently zoned R2 Single Family Residential District. This plat will create 131 residential lots, several new street segments, and an extension of North Hidden Lake to connect Briarbrook subdivision to the south. The application area is surrounded by single-family residential zoning to the north, west, and south. The subject property was part of a zone change to the JC General Commercial District approved earlier this year. And the remaining property east of the subdivision will potentially be developed with commercial and industrial uses. There is no identifiable cost to the city approving the final plat. The Planning Commission recommended approval of the final plat 5-0, again, back on November 18th.
Thank you, Sean. Ben?
Yeah, looking at the map on there, I think it's nice to point out here the name of the street coming off of Broadway is Caps Drive. Hobart would be very excited. No, I don't think it's after Hobart, but no, I think that's a nice addition there on that. I think the site plan looks good. It's 74. How many lots did you say were on there?
131,
131 lots there.
74 acres.
That's where the 74 came from.
Yes, sir.
I mean, I think it looks good. I would make a motion to approve the final plat as presented and per staff comments.
Thank you, Ben. Do I have a second? George?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and second it.
Troy? Do you have a discussion item?
I just want to ask a question.
Yes, sir.
Are they going to pave 93rd Street?
Not at this time.
No, I mean, when this is approximately done, when they put in Hidden Lane and all that, is Hidden Lane going to be paved all the way up to 93rd, and then 93rd West, is that going to be paved? Or is it still going to be dirt road?
Right now, it's currently planned to still remain a dirt road. As they progress forward, the developer more than likely will put forth a petition. I can't answer that right now because you'd have to have greater than 51% of the property owners sign onto that. And I know that there was some contention with some of the people on the north side of 93rd Street when it was originally changed in the zoning classification.
Right.
I would assume in the future that yes, it would be. But again, no petition is on file, no plans are on file as of yet.
All right, thank you.
If that does it would not be petitioned towards these properties. My guess is you'll see very similar there as what you see if you go all the way north on Grove and it ends.
Uh-huh.
That's probably what you're gonna see here.
Okay.
When something on 93rd develops or east of 93rd develops, that's what that'll go with.
Yes, sir.
And we're just getting ready to finish that Grove section now, aren't we?
Started.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
That's all I have.
Thank you. Okay, motion by Ben, seconded by George Glover. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Item 7, discuss and consider appointments to the Community Relations Board. You'll see, I think each of you got a application from 2 members that have, or members of the community that have requested to serve. I've talked to both of them that are very much willing and excited to serve on the Community Relations Board. Their terms will commence immediately and end January of 2026. Any questions or a motion? George?
Yeah, Community Relations Board is glad to have you on board. I have the pleasure of meeting Ms. Greenfeather, Wilcox Greenfeather. I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve the appointments of Shanna Orkentine and Leona Wilcox Greenfeather as members of the Community Relations Board with a term expiring in January 2026.
Thank you, George. Troy?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Very good. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Thank you for being here tonight, and thank you
you.
for serving.
You bet. Thank you.
All right, last item on the agenda is we have an executive session. It will be the governing body to discuss non-elected personnel for 5 minutes. Doug, do you want to join in this?
Sure.
Okay, and also the attorney. It's kind of important. Thank you. I would entertain a motion. Ben?
Yeah, I'd make a motion to go into executive session for 5 minutes to discuss non-elected personnel with the governing body and city attorney.
Thank you. Troy?
Second.
A motion by Ben, seconded by Troy. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 6-0. It's 7:42. was motion by Ben. Troy. Okay, on to governing body remarks. Jim?
Welcome back. Otherwise, no other comments.
Thank you.
I guess welcome back, but we'll miss you next meeting again. And I wasn't here the meeting that you were announced Mayor of the Year, so I just want to say publicly, congratulations on the Mayor of the Year award.
Thank you.
Just happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy the day. It's going to be a little chilly, but enjoy some time with the family and be thankful. That's all I got.
I'll echo Troy's remarks about Thanksgiving, and have a great holiday, everyone.
Thank you. Ben?
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving to everyone out there. Well, I guess there's only a few, but happy Thanksgiving to all you all and then everyone watching. I do want to say, and it was mentioned here, is congratulations to our city administrator. Last week, got an opportunity to be at a place with him where he was recognized as one of the Power 50 in the Wichita community by Wichita Business Journal as top 50 people making headlines in a positive way in our community, moving the ball forward. John Eck, the publisher, as he was talking about how they had well over 100 names that they considered, and they just continued to whittle down until they got to that 50 number. And there's a lot of good things going on in our region, in our community. When you think of all that's taking place, to be in there with what's happening at WCU. So Dr. Muma was one, Dr. Utash was one. You had just a great number of people, and to see our city administrator listed in there and recognized in there for the hard work, I think that was great. So congratulations, Sean, and what a great testimony to what's happening in our city. That said, I'll finish up with this. Our family is getting ready to go through a number of changes over the next few weeks and months, and we are excited. And so looking forward to what those challenges and changes bring along. If you see some stuff online, don't worry. Just excited as we get into this holiday season, what that can look like. So,
Very good. Thank you. George?
Yeah, congratulations, Sean, on your efforts. It's much appreciated. We definitely have a lot to be thankful for. I wanted to share a scripture tonight. 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 16 through 18. Rejoice always, pray without ceasing, give thanks in all circumstances, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus for all. Thank you.
Thank you, George. All right, so since I've been gone for a while, Sean, on the Power 50 thing, I want to also congratulate you and thank you for all the services and the things that you've done for Park City. And I know you are the last person to step up to be recognized in anything, but that's kind of too bad now because you're there. But I believe there will be more of a public announcement or kind of a media type release coming up in December, late. So we'll make sure, if the city clerk could make sure, since I know Sean won't, make sure that we get this pushed out social media wise and publicized with the city, and we get it to the Ark Valley News as well. So do your best to embarrass him. Thank you very much. All right, so we are all done. I entertain a motion to adjourn. Ben?
so moved.
Terry?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 6-0.